Hi everyone, I am so excited to be joined today by Babcock, a Gradcracker advertiser for the last 12 years, a toolkit sponsor, and now they are taking part in one of our webinars. Babcock is a global aerospace and defence organisation which delivers complex and critical engineering services across the UK and internationally. They focus on highly regulated markets, including defence, aerial emergency services, and the civil and nuclear sectors, delivering vital services and managing complex assets in the UK and abroad. Now let's dive in and meet the panel. We have Charlotte, the group graduate and early careers manager. That is hard to say. Lucy, Duncan, and Caroline. Lucy is currently on a year-long work placement with Babcock and is studying at the University of Cardiff with a Masters in Mechanical Engineering. Duncan went to the University of Strathclyde, where he studied electronic and electrical engineering, and Caroline finished her degree with a Masters in Mechanical Engineering with aeronautics at the University of Glasgow. They're all really difficult to say. Caroline, so just coming over to you. So during your third year, you actually went to and studied at the University of California. Now, couple of questions there. So what made you decide to study abroad? How is it different? And what experiences do you think you gained from it?
So, hi everyone. Why I decided to study abroad, I guess I always just really wanted to travel, but I didn't necessarily want to take a full year out after university. So it was kind of the perfect opportunity to do that, put myself outside of my comfort zone. And then, of course, living beside the beach was a big attraction with it being in California. In terms of what was different, absolutely everything. The teaching style was different. So in the UK, you usually have kind of 100 people in a lecture. In California, it was 30, 40 people. It was interactive. You had homework every week, you had midterms, assessments, all of the time. So it was really difficult, but yeah, really different, but still kind of one of the best years of my life. I guess I don't regret it at all. Kind of the third follow-up, what did I learn from it? I didn't really notice until I came back to the UK what I'd actually really got out of it and kind of the extent of skills that I'd got from it. So now going into a new environment with new people and stuff, I feel so much more comfortable than I think I would have done if I didn't have that experience. And just, you know, the memories, the stories you can talk about. Yeah, no, it was just brilliant.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Caroline. And did you find was there a lot of other students from the UK there with you at university, or were you kind of, you know, on your own almost?
There were a few, but it was kind of, so where it was, we had kind of an international house, which was all international students. So there was a lot from Australia, New Zealand, kind of all over the world. So from that aspect, you could learn so much about different cultures and everything as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Caroline. Now, we're going to hand over to the panellists a little bit later on with Jessica, but for now, Charlotte, if we can start with you. So could you tell the audience a little bit about you and your role within Babcock?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. We're really excited to be here. So I'm Charlotte. I work in the group organisation and development team. I'm the group graduate and early careers manager. I've been at Babcock for nearly 4 years now, which has gone incredibly quickly. I can't quite believe that. And in terms of my primary focus, I look after the attraction and then also the recruitment side, focusing on all things from kind of social media initiatives, looking at virtual events, hence kind of why we're here today, looking at our graduate website, an e-brochure which we've developed this year. So the attraction campaign has many aspects to it. There's many more bits and pieces that we get involved in. And on the recruitment side, I focus on how we're actually assessing candidates once they've come through that initial sift and through our system, how are we actually assessing them? Do we need to make improvements to that? Are there different ways of doing that? So that's the other key aspect to my role. And then in between that, I get involved in many different types of projects, many recruitment improvement projects and different ways of working. And that's usually prior to our launch each year. So those are the key aspects. I could talk at length about other aspects, but I'll stick to the key bits for today.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Charlotte. And from your point of view, you know, Babcock is huge. I gave an overview of who they are at the beginning of the webinar. But from your point of view, who would you say Babcock is, and do you want to also cover off in your answer the key markets that you cover as well?
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, Carla, we're a leading aerospace and defence organisation. We operate in the UK and abroad, so quite exciting that we've got an international reach as well, and that's only ever growing for us at Babcock. We deliver critical engineering services, and as you mentioned, we focus on 3 key markets. So starting with the defence market, we are the #2 supplier to the UK Ministry of Defence, which we call the MOD. We provide support to all 3 of the British Armed Services, which is quite exciting, and we support submarine programmes. So that's a snapshot of defence. On emergency services, we're the #1 aerial firefighting and medical services provider in Europe. And actually, we've got presence in a number of different countries. So, for example, Portugal, Italy, Spain, you know, we've got quite a reach in various countries, which is exciting. And then on the civil nuclear side, we have a long-term programme for decommissioning in the UK. We provide nuclear services and new build nuclear. So they're the key markets, but we also talk about our 4 key sectors at Babcock, which are marine, land, aviation and nuclear. So that's Babcock in a snapshot. It is quite a complex and really varied organisation, which makes it a really exciting place to work.
Thank you, Charlotte. And you just mentioned about, you know, obviously you've got international coverage as well. From a student's, graduate's perspective watching this webinar today, do they have the opportunity to go and travel abroad and work abroad as part of their graduate programme?
Yes, so there are aspects of the sector that will be able to offer that. It's not something that we can guarantee to every single candidate, which I think is quite important to note. There are opportunities. I think you have to be up for being flexible and mobile, so being willing to move around, especially obviously moving country, that's quite a big task. It's very exciting, but you've got to be ready for that. And there are certain sectors who offer typically more of those international opportunities than perhaps others. So it's definitely not something we can guarantee every time, but if you have an interest in international or being placed elsewhere, that's something you can note on your application form that will be taken into consideration.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Charlotte. And just thinking, you know, you've kind of, we've both said it, Babcock is huge, you know, it's a massive organisation. Now, just thinking, you know, having empathy, thinking from a student's point of view who's maybe watching this webinar, they might feel a little bit daunted by this. So how would you say Babcock is accessible to students and graduates who are thinking of applying to you?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few different aspects to this. I think the first one is the internal communities that we have here at Babcock. There are a number of networks that many individuals get actively involved in. We have the Young Professionals Network, we have a Women's Network, we have a Pride in Babcock Network, amongst many others. And actually I've seen plans for new networks, so there's some new ones being worked on right now. So that's ever growing, and what I see from that is a really nice interlink across sectors where people are collaborating, they're meeting people that they wouldn't normally meet in their day-to-day role, which, you know, is a really exciting concept. So there's certainly that from a support mechanism. Quite recently, we had a new Chief Executive Officer appointed, David Lockwood. He has been very forthcoming in some vlogs that he's been posting on our internal Connect page. I think we may be on number 20 already.
Wow.
These are very regular vlogs. They talk about all things from kind of key priorities to you know, parts on his agenda, to actually what are the key questions coming in from employees across the group. So there's a really nice open dialogue between our employee population and David, and we all get to watch those vlogs and interact with them. So I'd say that's definitely something to mention. And then third of all, which is more specific to the graduate programme, is the fact that we actually build in networking as a key aspect to the development programme. So at various touch points within the programme, we ensure that graduates have got a chance to network across sectors and meet one another. And, you know, very recently on one of our development modules, we had 2 individuals from the same university who saw each other on the development programme, which was amazing. They didn't know they had accepted a role at Babcock, but they saw each other on the development programme, and it was really fantastic. So the development programme certainly facilitates that. Graduates are offered a manager, a mentor and a graduate buddy. And I think all three of those mechanisms provide great support, but especially that graduate buddy. That's somebody who's been through the programme, who can answer questions and really understand what it's like to be a graduate at Babcock. So I think all of those things combined offer a support mechanism for somebody who is starting in a large corporate such as Babcock.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. And I think later on in the webinar, Caroline and Duncan are going to go on and discuss things like the mentorship and the help that they've been given whilst at Babcock as well. So we're saying about Babcock as a company. Obviously, you've been there for quite a while now, Charlotte. There must be some common misconceptions that you've come across over the years. So which are the key ones that you'd like to highlight today, and how would you kind of like to correct people about these misconceptions?
Yeah, I would probably mention two main misconceptions. I think the first one, very graduate specific, is that we only offer engineering programs here at Babcock. We do offer a wide range of engineering programs. We also offer some very interesting science and physicist type programs, but we also offer extensive business management programs. That's anything from HR to business operations management to procurement and supply chain. The whole host of graduate program offering here is so vast, and we have programs in most areas that you can probably think of that form an engineering organisation such as Babcock. So it really is varied. I think there is sometimes a misconception that engineering is the only area we offer. So that's the first thing I would emphasise. The second thing I would emphasise is the variety of engineering operations that we offer. So yes, we do offer engineering, and we work on dockyards and very hands-on type engineering, but there's a variety of engineering capacity at Babcock. There are office-based roles as well as site-based roles. The specialisms within the engineering functions are so vast, and I think sometimes there could be a misconception that we only do kind of site-based, hands-on, let's say, engineering work. There's such a variety. So I would say those are the two key ones, Carla, that I would highlight.
Thank you very much. And then just staying with that thread slightly, so you mentioned a few times about locations and things like that. So students and graduates who are watching the webinar, where could they be based? Could they be based at any site across the UK, or do you kind of have hot points where you would recruit students and graduates into?
Yeah, so there are certain programs where we offer a UK-wide approach, because we have so many different areas in which we recruit those programs. So they may be programs such as mechanical engineering, electrical and electronic engineering, or maybe business operations management, for example, where we've got the need across so many of our sectors. But then in comparison to that, you do get other programs that are quite specialist to a particular area of the business. So for example, our design engineering program, that's a Plymouth only program. And that is because our Plymouth team need design engineers, whereas perhaps some of our other areas don't need that capacity right now. So there is a variety of locations. I would encourage all candidates considering looking at the different locations to check out the Gradcracker hub, because I believe we've got information on there regarding all the main pockets, let's say, that we operate in. But it is very varied. We operate up north, down south, in the Midlands, and just about everywhere else. So and internationally as well. So it's very varied.
Thank you, Charlotte. And now moving on, so we all know now a little bit more about Babcock, misconceptions and everything else. This year is different for us all, but moving on to the recruitment process, can you tell us just an overview of what the recruitment process is looking like this year?
Yeah, of course. So, usually we run face-to-face assessment centres. That's something that we do across the country. Our recruitment teams work very hard to set those up. We have had to adapt our approach this year. So they have now gone virtual. we are actually receiving some really positive feedback regarding the virtual approach. Candidates are so far so good in the areas that we've piloted this virtual approach. It is going well so far. I think that's the main thing that's had to change because of the virtual world that we're living in. But it's very much the same process of submitting your application online through Gradcracker and through our microsite. At the second point, you will be invited to online testing. We do test a variety of different aspects, but for example, this could be a numerical test. At the third point is then, as I've mentioned, the assessment centre, which is now virtual at the moment, but we're reviewing it very closely. And then at the fourth stage, that's where you're looking at the offer process. There are some instances where we will invite candidates for a second stage interview. It doesn't happen all the time. It's usually when you've had your assessment centre and maybe there's a few key other questions that need to be asked, or maybe they didn't quite get a chance to ask you a few key questions they wanted to ask. So that's the general process.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And we're going to go back to Charlotte a little bit later on towards the end of the webinar, just to discuss some key roles that Babcock still have open and that Charlotte does want to give an extra push to. So let's stay with the recruitment process just for a little while longer, and then just loop in some of the graduates, and obviously Lucy, who's doing a work placement at Babcock. So all of you, you've been through the recruitment process, you've been hands-on and experienced all of this. So starting with you, Lucy, could you give us just a tip that you would like to share with the audience that can get them battle through the process and get a job with Babcock?
Yeah, can do. My tip would be to bring a piece of work, so like a group project or a report or a lab report that you've written that you can use to demonstrate your skills. And it will also definitely make you memorable, as like barely anyone actually does that. So on my application day, I brought a lab report in, and then another candidate brought a robot to show their skills in robotics, and we both got the job. So it must do something to help.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good conversation piece as well, to have something there and think, yeah, I can talk about this. You're confident, you put it all together. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lucy. Caroline, on to you. What hint or tip would you give?
So it sounds a bit cliche, but I would say just get your personality across. If they're looking at you and they're talking with you, they already, your grades have passed, they know about your qualifications. It's what you've done outside of those exams in academia that really kind of sets you apart, and like Lucy mentioned, makes you stand out. That's what they're going to remember you for. So just any experiences you think that are kind of unique to yourself, that will definitely help, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that includes things like hobbies and stuff like that as well, doesn't it? We've done a few of these webinars now, and people have done everything from tap dancing to football to anything in between. And when we're speaking to the recruiters, I think, oh, that's what I remember about that person. So yeah, really good point, Caroline. And last but not least, Duncan, what would you say?
Yeah, the advice I'd give is basically learn from the experience, even if you are unsuccessful, whether it's the online test or the assessment centre. You can take what you've learned onto the next assessment centre with another company. I myself had a lot of no's before I had a yes, but with each no, I was better prepared for the next one.
Yeah, and it's kind of just learning why there were no's, historically, and how can you change a no into a yes, isn't it?
And it helps you, to anticipate the sort of thing to expect.
Yeah, fab. Thank you very much, everybody. Well, I'm going to sit back and relax and hand over to Jessica, and Jessica's going to speak to Caroline, Duncan and Lucy now. So Jessica, my love, over to you.
Take the reins. Brilliant. Thanks, Carla. So let's get started. So I know that you all have used Gradcracker as part of your job hunting, but Caroline and Duncan, which parts of the Babcock hub on Gradcracker or Gradcracker in general did you find the most useful? So Caroline, starting with you.
Yeah, of course. So I'd just like to say that first of all, I actually applied to Babcock through Gradcracker, so it worked, it gets you a job. In terms of the hub, it was really the kind of the videos and the live employee profiles and stuff that kind of brought Babcock to life a bit and showed the diversity of the people and the operations and everything within Babcock. It's really useful to just kind of sum up everything that Babcock has and what we kind of do. I say it just kind of shows the diversity of the company and makes it feel a bit more kind of smaller than the size it actually is by getting to know those personal profiles that they've put up on that.
Perfect, brilliant. Duncan?
Yeah, two things stood out for me. First of all, the case studies that you can see, it sort of brings project to life, and you can see the positive impacts on societies that Babcock has, as well as that the videos of graduates and ex-graduates. You can see the day-to-day of a graduate and what to expect, but then you can also see what ex-graduates have done with their careers and the sort of path that they've taken after the grad scheme.
Yeah, brilliant. It sounds as though sometimes with this question, it's like we're fishing for a compliment, but it's not, because I think sometimes students really underestimate, the content within the hub, don't they? And understanding that if you do look at all this content, it helps on so many levels for you to understand, the company, you're applying to, the kind of people they recruit, the projects, everything else, which is only going to help you either decide if you want to work for that company or, if they're going to be the right fit for you. So that's really good point, so thanks guys. Next question to you all: what kind of stood out for you about Babcock, and what kind of made you want to apply to them? So Lucy, what was the big thing for you?
It was the structure of the industrial placement itself. So it's split into 3 4-month placements, which means we get to see a lot more of the business and a lot more different departments, because most other companies, it's just 1 year long placement in one department, and if you don't like it, you're sort of stuffed. Whereas at Babcock, if you don't like it, you've got 2 other ones that you could really enjoy.
So in that time then, did you move location, or would you stay in one? Oh, obviously, of course you did, we were in COVID.
I've moved.
But would you have done typically?
You moved departments, but I've not moved locations. I've stayed in Devonport in Plymouth. But I'm not sure if you could move to Scotland or to the Bristol sites like you can in the graduate scheme. Okay.
Could you, Charlotte? Would that be something if for the kind of year-long placement, if you wanted to kind of stress that you could move? Could you?
I think it's probably less likely than if you were on a graduate program. I think with the graduate program, there are certain areas of the business that it's very likely you're going to move location and site. I think for with Lucy's example, the Devonport team, they offer such a variety of different areas, which is really, really great, as Lucy is mentioning. But I wouldn't say that's kind of a standard offering. It's really looking at each opportunity, and as you've mentioned, seeing if that fits for you as an individual, and looking at whether that is in one team or whether you get to move to a few different teams. So yeah, I think it's case by case on that one.
Brilliant, perfect, thanks for that. Caroline, how about you?
I guess to kind of go on what Lucy and Charlotte just said, coming out of uni, I still wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. I kind of knew I didn't want to go down the nitty gritty kind of aerospace design engineering. And I liked the fact that Babcock offered 4 different placements across different areas of their civil and military aviation business. So, and the thing is, it wasn't set out, it wasn't, okay, you're going to be doing this exactly then. You could kind of influence your placements and kind of go where the areas kind of that interested you. So I guess just the diversity of the operations, kind of the range of experience, you're not stuck in one job for a year like similar companies kind of put you in, I guess.
Which is a massive benefit. The more exposure you can get so early on, the better. That's great. Duncan, how about you?
Yeah, I think what stood out for me was the fact that the work you do isn't just office-based. So, you do the technical side at your desk, but then you can go out on the field and actually see what you're working towards. You can fully comprehend the project, and, it makes it exciting. Yeah. And as well as that, just the amount of people who work there's a lot of knowledgeable people and a lot of experience. So it's just a great way to start your career, getting that sort of in and out of the office, but also, the people you work with.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I want to kind of come to Lucy, because I feel as though I've done a lot of presentations this week with multiple different universities across the UK, and I feel like, Lucy, I've used you as a beacon of hope these last couple of weeks, just saying, the experience that you've had so far at Babcock has been phenomenal, doing an industry placement, getting work experience in a pandemic, and, doing everything you've done. I really hope that, you know, students today are going to listen to your story and, you know, be inspired and think, you know, even all the rough time that we're all going through, we can still get some experience, and there's still opportunities out there that students can be applying to. So if you could like give us a bit more information about, you know, before you were kind of applied, and, you know, a bit about university life. And I've also heard as well on the grapevine, you're actually part of the Cardiff Racing Society, which is super exciting. So anyone that doesn't know, the Cardiff Racing Society actually have a hub on Gradcracker, and I know they've been working really hard this week, so give a shout out to them. And Robin, bless him, the president, has been working very closely with my colleague Georgia to keep their society hub up to date. But yeah, if you could kind of tell us a bit about kind of your university life and how this kind of maybe has benefited, you know, being part of the society when it comes to applying for the placement.
Well, my uni life basically consisted of going to lectures and then the society, which you can obviously do more than one society, but I mostly spent my time at Cardiff Racing. So what we do is every year we build a race car, which is designed by the master's students. And then in the summer, we can go compete against universities globally in places such as the UK, Germany, Austria, Spain, etc. And it's just a great place to put engineering concepts into reality and really get stuck in. But also the social aspects are just amazing, and you make really good friends.
Perfect. So yeah, any students that are listening, you know, we do really encourage students to be part of any kind of society, but, you know, especially maybe a STEM one, because it does show off to the recruiter that, you know, you are generally interested in your degree that you're studying. And also, like you say, you can make some friends, can't you, Lucy? So it's a really good thing to be involved in. So let's talk about your current role and what you've kind of been experiencing over the last year. So if you could tell me a bit about what your role kind of consists of and what you've been doing. Lucy, sticking that with you.
Okay. Currently, I'm part of the LifeX team, which is us trying to extend the life of Type 23 frigates, some of which have already been out for like 30 years. So it's quite a mean job to try and make them go for even longer. Okay. But it's just really interesting.
So I guess you've been working with quite a mixed range of people, from experienced engineers, you know, to probably peers of the people that are actually on a placement. Have you had that kind of chance to network with a huge array of different people?
Oh, completely. Like, you have people that have been at the company for like decades, and then other grads from like various disciplines, like they're engineers, their project management, their human factors, but then you also can network with apprenticeships, like apprenticeship students as well. So it's just such a diverse group of people.
Brilliant. And the reason why I asked that question, because again, it's another thing to show off. You know, you've done this kind of experience all from being at home, and you know the great thing that Babcock has, you know, still been managed to kind of offer you this role, and still, you know, giving you such a fantastic experience where you've been networking with brilliant people by the sounds of it. So well done to you, and well done to Babcock. Duncan, I'm going to move to you next. So you are part of the safety engineering team. Please, can you tell the audience a bit more about this?
Yeah, so basically they're in charge of making sure that mechanical and electrical facilities adhere to safety regulations and continue to operate safely. So the work that I've been involved in is assessing electrical distribution equipment on a naval base, and then making maintenance recommendations based on their condition. So once I've made the recommendations, I've consolidated them into a formal report, and I've had to liaise with senior engineers and the client as well, just to make sure the recommendations are correct, or if they need tweaked, or if they're the correct way forward. And as well as that, I'm also creating a larger maintenance report for several electrical systems at the naval base. So it's definitely a really good responsibility, and I'm essentially doing the same job as an actual safety case engineer would do. But more importantly, I'm learning a really essential and transferable skill that I can basically take to any other placement or life beyond the grad scheme.
Brilliant. Caroline, I'm going to ask you the same question as well. So if you could tell us a bit more about your role and what you've been doing.
Yeah, of course. So I am currently on my third placement in the military business development and bidding team. And what we really do is work on new business opportunities coming up in the pipeline, future contracts for the military. That's not just specific to the RAF, it includes kind of army and land stuff as well. So my role in the team is just kind of providing support, assisting the bid manager and solution architect on a kind of various areas, everything that's involved in a bid. So maintenance plans, manpower, equipment integration, logistics, supply chain, procurement, literally everything. And it's just kind of engaging with all of those stakeholders. And it's so beneficial because you learn little bits about what each team does. And it's just incredible to be the center of that and kind of have that around you.
Brilliant. Can you also tell the viewers a bit about the aviation STEM strategy, which you're running?
Yeah, of course. So this is always run by second year graduates for the aviation sector. So if any student does join Babcock, then of course it's something you can get involved in. So at the moment I'm running it with two other grads. You just kind of volunteer for it. Right. And at the moment our focus is really on increasing the number of STEM ambassadors within Babcock so that we can get that outreach to local schools, colleges, universities, kind of the whole community, to not just get kind of younger kids into STEM in the first place, but to attract them to Babcock and our graduate and kind of apprenticeship schemes as well.
That's fantastic. And so I guess you've been doing some virtual events, have you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't go out and kind of have that face-to-face conversation with people, but yeah, a lot of virtual events and trying to keep it running and keep motivation for students, because I think it's quite hard working from home and studying from home at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, new world that we're living in. You definitely learn new skills though, having to do it virtually, don't you? So no, at least it's given us all a bit of a test. So next, it'd be great if we could kind of now give a bit of an insight into the teams that you're actually all working with. So I know you've all kind of touched upon that you do get quite a bit of exposure with different kind of levels, different teams, everything else. But Lucy, could you talk me a bit about the team that you've been working with in your last project?
Well, my current team consists of a couple of fixed Babcock employees and then loads of grads. It's a lot of grad manpower.
Brilliant.
And we just there's a lot of costing and finding ways to extend life and a lot of innovation. So it's really quite good that there are so many grads, because we all bring different points of views and different ideas, which really help the team.
Yeah, definitely. And have you been with other people that have been on the internship kind of program as well, or?
Currently in Devonport, there's 10 of us on this scheme, and I've not had the chance of working with any of them yet. But I know that on occasion, some of them have been put in the same placement.
Okay.
So it's just luck of the draw.
Well, it's great that you've been working with people the graduate level, so that's a good experience for you. So well done. Caroline, how about you?
Yeah, so I guess every placement I've been in has been really different. So my first one was on an RAF base, and that was a lot of ex-military personnel. And kind of the phrase around the site was "fill up a sandbag," and they just tell you kind of all their ex-serving stories and stuff like that, and it was just so interesting. Yeah. But to kind of contrast that to who I work with now and my current team, it's a really young, really diverse team, and there's a lot of ex-graduates and a lot of knowledge that you can kind of tap into with them. So it's really young, really diverse, and it's good to see the sort of roles that I might be able to kind of go into in a few years.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll probably help you as well, kind of be able to carve your own career path, because if you're listening to other people's different stories, what they've experienced, think, oh, I fancy a bit of that, I fancy a bit of that, and this is what you'd like to do next. Does it help?
Yeah. And they always kind of help you and support you with whatever task you're doing. So
brilliant. Duncan, how about you? What's your team like?
So I'm working with a safety engineering team, as I mentioned, and they are in charge of managing site safety cases and justifying operations that are associated with nuclear safety and explosive safety. And this has been in accordance with the Ministry of Defence and current legislations. They'll basically do this by producing and maintaining documentation and, giving technical assessments just to make sure the customer's assets are continue to operate as they should and will continue to operate for decades to come.
Yeah.
But everyone's really nice. They're very helpful and they have years of experience.
So is it what you expected then?
Yeah, definitely. It's, it kind of it works quite well given the fact that I'm working from home.
Yeah.
I can just do the job as normal. So yeah, very happy.
Brilliant, good stuff. So looking back on the placements you've been on at Babcock so far, could you all kind of summarise your journey? So starting with you, Lucy.
Well, I've been on 2 placements and they've both been very different. I've gone from a design placement with very few grads and just stuff that I've never done before to this one where it's been a lot of grads and it's been a lot more innovative. It's just so diverse.
Yeah, I bet. Just sticking with you, Lucy, a lot of the time when I'm speaking to students that are thinking about doing a placement, I always say to them, it's a massive benefit for the employer to get students in on placement, but it's a huge benefit for you personally, not just the experience you gain, but when you go back to your final year. I've heard a lot of the tutors and lecturers say they can really tell a student that's been out in industry and they perform a lot better in their final year. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like when you do go back for your final year that you're going to probably be a bit different? Do you think maybe you'll find the course a bit easier, or maybe something might click and you think, oh, I know how I can apply this now into industry? Do you feel that at all?
I think so, yeah, definitely from a productivity and a time management point of view, you definitely get a lot of experience from a job because you have strict deadlines, you have meetings you have to attend to. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more structure and you have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
So once you come back to uni, you're a lot more dedicated. I should attend all my lectures. I should get this work done.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to get that done because you're used to a 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that kind of business setting, isn't it, that you kind of adapt to, and which is really, really good. And I'm glad you've said that because, I think it's just a huge benefit and it's great that the employers offer these opportunities for you to get it. So brilliant. Caroline, looking at your journey so far, and if you can summarise it, please.
Yes, of course. So just kind of to echo again the diversity point. So I'm now in my 3rd placement. My first placement was, as I just kind of briefly touched on an operational contract in engineering management on an RAF base. My second one was totally different in the Central Fleet team, looking at all our aircraft all over the world, so not just UK focused. And the current one is kind of in military bidding and business development. I still have one more placement to go. I'm actually moving in a few weeks, and that's going to be in design. So the breadth of knowledge that I've gained throughout these 4 placements is just incredible. I think to just kind of the point you were touching on with Lucy, it builds your confidence so much. I can tell now, being kind of a year and a half into the scheme, at the start I'd be so nervous to kind of voice my opinion, speak up in meetings, but now you just kind of feel like you kind of belong a bit more. You're kind of part of the company, you're part of the team, and people do really value your opinion. So it's just great for your confidence.
It's great then, in a year to see how far you've come and probably look back and have a bit of self-reflection and think, it must be quite nice, pat on the back to you all, because it must be a good feeling. So well done. Duncan, sorry, placement, your journey so far.
Yeah, so my first placement was a project engineering role. So that was a maintenance package on one of the Trident submarines. So to start my grad scheme, getting to see a nuclear submarine and go on every day was quite eye-opening. It was quite amazing to see a project of that size and scale, how it's managed, working alongside people in the Royal Navy, and just seeing the sort of obstacles they have to overcome and how they do so.
Yeah.
So that was a great start to my grad scheme. Then I went into the utilities team. So I was proactive maintenance planning for high voltage equipment. Okay. So I could actually use the knowledge that I gained at university and directly apply it to my day-to-day role.
Yeah.
And then after that was the safety engineering role that I had previously mentioned. And then I'll be going into my 4th placement in a couple of months, but that is to be confirmed where I'm going yet.
Okay.
But hopefully I should get that sorted in the next week or so.
Did you get to pick, or do you work with your mentors and the managers to kind of see where you are going next? How does that work?
Well, to be honest, I've essentially chosen where I've gone.
Okay.
You know, every 6 months, our manager will come to us and just, you know, say, here's a bunch of jobs, here's a bunch of placements, just pick your favorite or give us your top 3 and we'll try and accommodate you.
Brilliant.
So, you know, you can really sort of choose the path of the grad scheme, how you want, you know, how you want to do it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of students don't realise that, you know, that's one of the massive benefits of being on a programme, that you can carve your own career and take those chances and think, oh, I'm going to try something that's a bit different, you know, an experience you might not necessarily expect to get. So it's good
Definitely.
that you're doing that. Okay, so I would like now to speak to you all a bit about your training and development, because I know when I speak to students, that's, you know, quite an important factor for them, and also kind of the support networks that you get at Babcock. I know Charlotte kind of covered that initially, so if we can kind of talk about the training that you've got or you're kind of undergoing at the moment. So again, starting with you, Lucy.
I've had training in health and safety and nuclear safety, just from the company does nuclear work as well, so you know you have to be competent in it. But then you also have training with different business practices, so like cybersecurity, bribery, trade laws, etc. So you learn a lot of just general business know-how. But then also from my previous placement, I received a lot of training into different softwares.
Okay.
Which was invaluable.
I bet. And so, you know, kind of the training then, obviously you said the softwares that you work on, are you working on those softwares after you've been trained on them, or how does that work? Do you kind of get to actually use those after that?
Yeah, I was still doing the training alongside using the software.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I guess it just really helps. So you definitely hone your skills in that software, and then you can continue using it throughout other placements and beyond, and you have that knowledge and you have those skills.
Brilliant. Perfect. Caroline, how about you?
Yes, so I've received management training as well as kind of things specific to aviation in terms of airworthiness, air safety regulations, kind of all that stuff. On the aviation, aerospace engineering and business schemes, we're also offered to do an MSc in business management if we want, alongside the graduate scheme. You know, you get a day a week to do that if you do want to, although I opted not to do that. But what I've experienced so far, if you identify training that you want to do and you take that to your line manager, 9 out of 10 times they'll say yes and support you if it's going to help develop you. You know, they're open to what training you identify, what route you kind of feel you need to improve in.
And can that be quite broad then? So it doesn't necessarily have to be reflecting a project or something you're working on. If you say, oh, I've got a bit of a side interest in doing something like this, you can go and get that kind of training.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm kind of underway in trying to get some project management training. You know, it can be just as broad as that, or it can be specific stuff to the role that you're in.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Duncan?
Yeah, so I've been part of and done training courses, you know, obviously applicable to the placements that I've been in. But the main training is the graduate development program that you put on as a graduate. So that consists of 4 modules throughout the scheme. So basically you get to work with other graduates from other parts of the UK, and you can, you know, learn how to work in a team better. So you work towards business orientation, collaborating in teams, resilience in the workplace. And, you know, you can also learn about your own personality traits and how, you know, how they affect a team and how you apply them to your day-to-day. So it is quite hard work, but, you know, it's a lot of fun as well. And they are still running them through lockdown. Just the socializing aspect isn't really there, you know.
I know, this new way of socializing, it's all a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll all be Zoom professionals probably by the end of this year, won't we? So staying with Duncan and Caroline, what support networks do you utilise most at Babcock? So maybe obviously the managerial, mentoring, kind of sticking with that. So Duncan, I'll stick with you.
Yeah, so we're assigned a mentor at the beginning of the graduate scheme, and they help you record evidence towards being a professional engineer, but they're also there, if you have any advice or you have any sort of, career questions you want to ask.
Okay.
As well as that, any manager you have, they're very friendly, they're very approachable, and they know as a graduate that you're still in the learning phase. They all say no question is a bad question. I'm asking silly questions every day, but it's absolutely fine.
It's good, and that's a good saying. I've heard that before, and it really does kind of stick that, no question is a silly one. So yeah, you've got to have that confidence to ask it, but yeah, make sure you do. Caroline, how about you?
Yeah, so we get given both a business mentor and an engineering mentor in the aerospace engineering team. And your business mentor is not related to engineering really at all. So mine's in health and safety, and they're really just there for general support and advice, and just someone else in the company that you can go to for questions. And then our engineering mentor is kind of similar to what Duncan touched on, working towards your iEngineer CEng applications and kind of gathering the evidence
brilliant.
for that. But like Duncan touched on as well, we have these formal mentors, but your line managers are always kind of your informal mentors in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we kind of touched on the buddy scheme at the start as well. So we all have kind of our graduate in the year above that we can just ask the silly questions to, what do you wear to the office on your first day, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So what I want to talk next is about projects, and a project that you've worked on so far that stands out the most to you. Lucy, what would you say so far has been the biggest thing you've worked on?
I think my sort of like biggest or favourite project would have been in my first placement, so part of MEG, the mechanical engineering group, and it was design. So I got to design a guide for a calibration probe, and I got to actually 3D print that and see it, like hold it and see it in real life, which is pretty cool, especially because a lot of work remotely is just done through spreadsheets or on the computer. I got to actually have a real life end product.
Oh, well done you. So would you say, kind of the experience, the overall kind of experience, the different placements you've done, do you think coming out of the placement now, are your interests the same, or do you think your interests have changed in terms of what you want out of a career, and, when you come to doing your final year projects might be a little bit different now?
Yeah, it's definitely like opened my eyes to like starts of engineering that at uni I really disliked. Doing placements in them, you're sort of like, this is actually quite different and quite enjoyable. So it does influence you and open your eyes to a lot of different things.
Perfect. Caroline, favourite project so far?
So it's actually very recent, so it's quite a good time to be having this.
Okay.
I think about a month ago, myself and a few other graduates got approached by the UK aviation strategy team, and we got told, look at bold ideas, areas where we're not really operating in at the moment that we could expand into. Where do you want to see aviation within 5 years? I can't go into too much detail, but it was sorry. I think we found out on the Monday morning, and the following Monday we were presenting our ideas to the aviation board. And these kind of presentations, I think they were really impressed with them all, and they've all gone up to our CEO, and they're going to group CEO.
Wow.
So kind of awaiting feedback from that. But yeah, it was so nerve-wracking. It was just awful, but also brilliant at the same time.
Oh, well done.
It was just, sorry, I think my internet's going out a little bit, but it was just really good to kind of feel valued and exposure as well.
Yeah, well done. That's like, so again, it's personal skills, overcoming something, thinking outside of the box, being able to, go really wild and creative. So well done. I want to know. So I know I won't dig, but yeah, it's exciting. I know. Wow. I get told off. Duncan, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it was the project engineering placement I had. during its maintenance phase, the submarine was out of the water. So to go into work every day and to see something of that scale, this sort of propped up, it's just, you can't really put it into words until you see it. And I felt very lucky because most people don't get to work on something like that. So yeah, it was just the novelty never wore off, really.
I bet. What's it? So you've obviously seen a submarine, and you've been on one. Are they amazing in real life as they are in those pictures?
Yeah,
See them come out of the water.
Yeah, when they're out the water, this looks like a rocket ship or something. It's amazing.
I bet.
Yeah.
So cool.
Duncan's saying, don't ask me any more questions.
I know, like, just go shut up.
No comment.
The pictures are great though. I love them. Yeah. Okay, so the future. I know it's a bit of a crazy thing to be thinking about at the moment, but what is the future looking like? What are you guys all thinking? Where can you see yourself? That kind of 5-year plan, if you've got one. Lucy, you're obviously going back to university. We've kind of touched upon obviously things that you've kind of opened up your eyes to now that you might not have done before, but where can you see your kind of future and career going after this?
Well, I hope to get onto the Babcock sponsorship program, which would mean me doing a summer placement in between my last 2 years and then joining as a grad. Yeah. Because I've really enjoyed my time at the company, and then as a grad I get to experience so many more departments and so much more out of it.
Yeah, perfect. And again, students that are listening, listen to Lucy and what she's saying here, because if you can secure another placement with Babcock, it's only going to make it easier. Hopefully when you're looking for a graduate job, you can say, Charlotte, can I have a graduate job now? And so a huge benefit all around. So well done. Caroline, how about you? 5-year plan or future plans?
5 years is a bit of a push, but I'll have one 6-month placement next, and that's in design. And then come September, that's officially the end of the graduate scheme. So I think the job applications will be starting, hopefully kind of secure a permanent position within Babcock. I really enjoy kind of the bidding and business development that I've been working on. So hopefully that's an area that I can kind of stay in it and work my way up over the next 5 years.
Brilliant. Well, fingers crossed and good luck. Duncan, how about you?
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I'll hopefully, be assigned my final placement, and then, come to summertime, the initial conversations to hopefully secure a placement after the grad scheme.
Yeah.
And in the next 3 to 5 years, looking to be professionally registered engineer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure, it'll all fly by, won't it? It's like years do come and go. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate the insights. It's very exciting what you all do. Very envious. But Carla, I'll hand back to you and we can finish off.
Thank you very much, Jess, and thanks very much everybody for your answers and contributing today. So I'd like to kind of wrap up with Caroline, Duncan and Lucy as well with your key interesting fact about Babcock. So I don't know, Lucy, do you want to go first? Because this is the theme that you go first.
I know, sorry, I have been doing
all the questions. Poor little Lucy. So what is your key interesting fact about Babcock?
Well, mine is that in the last decade, we've refitted 13 Type 23 frigates at Babcock Devonport site.
Cool.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Isn't it?
That wasn't what I was expecting you to say, but thank you. Caroline, over to you.
Yes, so my fact is across kind of Canada, Australia and Europe, we operate or own more than 500 aircraft within Babcock.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Duncan?
My fun fact is over 170 Babcock employees across the world are Armed Force reservists. And Babcock were awarded a gold award from the Ministry of Defence's Armed Forces Employer Recognition Scheme.
Wow.
Oh, that's another good thing to know.
Well, I bet you all didn't know about that, did you? Before?
No.
So yeah, thanks very much everybody for those. I don't know if we've lost Charlotte. No, Charlotte, in the nick of time, you've come back to me.
Yeah, sorry, my internet's a little bit dodgy, so I tried to turn the camera off so I wouldn't lose everyone.
Oh
But
no,
I'm still here.
Yeah,
that's
don't worry.
I was like, Charlotte, you're not done yet. Don't leave. Yeah, I just really want to go back to a point that Lucy made at the beginning of the webinar about her mentioning as being part of a society as during her application to Babcock. So just a shout out to my colleague, our colleague Hannah. So Hannah's actually written a really good blog about how joining a society will enhance your application. So that blog can be found within the Career Centre and the Career Coach area. I have to be careful how I say coach because nobody understands Career Coach
Northern
area
accent.
of Gradcracker. If you are involved in a society and you would like more information to get a society hub, contact Georgia. All the details are on the society pages. So a bit of a shout out to Georgia there as well, because she is working very hard behind the scenes and getting all the societies engaged on Gradcracker. Right, back to Babcock, and Charlotte hasn't left me, so Charlotte, this is a question for you. So yeah, applications for your graduate programmes are still open. Now we've put a closing date on there of the 31st of March. However, we don't think they're going to be open that long in the nicest sense. So make sure, don't leave it to the last minute, everybody who's watching today, make sure you get your applications in ASAP. Do not miss out. I mean, there's some fantastic opportunities which are open at Babcock. Charlotte, you would like to mention some specific roles that you'd want to promote to the students today?
Yes, thank you, Carla. So as Carla said, it's likely these roles will be closing quite soon. We don't want you guys to be disappointed, so it really is worth you getting your application in early. We've got electrical and electronic engineering, which we still have some opportunities for. I'm going to say that's UK-wide because we have a number of different sectors that are recruiting that. So there's plenty of different locations to look at for that one. Devonport-wise, we've got some business solutions roles, which are actually new this intake, so we haven't recruited these before. We've got an IT business management business solutions role and an IT development business solutions role. And the design engineering programme, another one that I suspect is going to be closing quite soon, but just wanted to mention that too. And then the only other two that I would highlight for now are the software engineering and the systems engineering. That's a few different locations, Plymouth, Cumbria and Bristol as well. So yeah, just a polite reminder to everyone to avoid the disappointment and get the applications in as soon as they can. Thank you, Carla.
No problem at all. Thank you, Charlotte. And just a shout out to the students on the webinar who might not have graduated yet, but you know, you're in a similar position to Lucy and have won to placement. So Babcock have actually closed their placements for this year, but they will be opening again in the autumn. So don't miss out. Follow Babcock today if you're in that situation, and make sure you are the first to be alerted. So as Charlotte says, do not miss out. Charlotte and I have been working so hard behind the scenes on this webinar and on the hub and everything else, and you know, don't, as a viewer, don't miss out on the opportunity of really showing Charlotte that you've been here today. You know, you've sat through the webinar, you've listened to Lucy and the grads and their experiences as well. So make sure you reference the fact that you've sat, you've watched, you know, you've been intrigued, you've listened carefully to all the information that everybody's told you. If you're not sure how to reference that, again, Hannah has written a blog on the Career Centre about how to reference the fact that you've watched these webinars as part of your application. So don't, you know, get that extra edge and really put your application to the forefront of the minds. And just to kind of reiterate what Caroline and Duncan said at the beginning of the webinar, all the information on the hub is there for you. You know, it's very well thought out information. It is to make Babcock, for example, more accessible. So go and have a look at the video, go and have a look at the profiles, and really, you know, put in a well thought out application. I'd like to thank you all again for joining us today. Thank you, Babcock. You've been absolutely amazing, and some of the stories that you've told have been fascinating. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
But you're leaving me next week.
I know.
Sophie's joining me.
Sophie's a lot more sensible than me.
Yeah. Yeah, Sophie's with me next week, and we are joined by the Institute of Physics. So we're meeting 3 scholars, and they're going to talk about their journeys to becoming teachers in the long run. So really looking forward to that one. So Hopefully see you next week. Thank you very much, Babcock. Take care, everybody, and see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.